NFL fans, welcome back to a brand new episode of the J All Day Sports Show. Today, we're talking about the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to do a brief roster breakdown on the Packers and give you a full 7-round mock draft after that. The Packers are picking 23rd overall in this draft. They definitely have some holes, especially in the trenches, that they need to fill in this draft. I've been hearing between 7 and 8 draft picks. It looks like they're going to get 8 this year, so I'm very excited to bring to you a 7-round mock draft for the Green Bay Packers. Let's get into it. Alright, Packer Nation, before we get started, do me a huge favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really does help us get into the algorithm. One good thing about having the youngest team in the NFL, Packers fans, is there's not a lot of unrestricted free agents. Only 10 of them this year. Not a lot of huge contributors. Josh Myers, Brandon McManus, Andre Dillard, TJ Slayton, Isaiah McDuffie, Eric Stokes, and Eric Wilson, right? Packers Nation, when I'm first just looking over the roster briefly and looking at where we're thin at, one position we're thin at is center. Only one guy on the whole roster is an actual center. And then at the tackle position, Andre Dillard is a free agent, so only 2 tackles. So they're very, very thin at the offensive line position. They need to draft 2, maybe 3 offensive linemen in this draft. Looking at the defense, linebackers a little thin too, with Wilson and the other guys going to be free agents. Interior defensive linemen, a lot of them, but can any of them actually play? Might need an upgrade there. Plenty of edge defenders as well. Now, if we take a look at this actual depth chart and figure out where they can be successful, where do they need. McKinney had a great year. Jair Alexander is good when he's healthy, right? So maybe a restructure for his deal would be interesting. Edge defender, interior defensive line is a huge need. Cooper had a great year. I was a big fan of him if you follow my draft content. And then left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, all upgradable positions, and a true number 1 outside receiver. That's where I think we're going to go in this year's draft. Let's get into this mock draft. All right, Packers fans, here we go with this 7-round mock draft. We have a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 2 7th-round picks. All right, here we are. Picking at number 23. Some very interesting names: Mykel Williams, Walter Nolan, Jack Sawyer, Kenneth Grant, all interior defensive linemen. That seems to be where the value is right now. I don't know if a guy like Gray Sable is worth that 23rd overall pick. The cornerbacks Amos and Revel are interesting too, as well as Donovan Ezeraku, who's ranked 35th by PFF. But a guy like Mykel Williams is a very interesting talent. 6'5", 265 edge defender. And then Walter Nolan from Mississippi, man. I just love him. And if you look at the Packers roster, the interior part of their D-line is probably the weakest part of this roster, in my opinion. And a guy like Walter Nolan just makes your team so much better right away. 6'3", 305, can fit right in the middle of that defense, 91 overall grade versus the run. He can rush the passer a little bit too. 6 sacks, 4 hits, 25 hurries. Coming from the interior part of the D-line is very, very impressive, guys. If I'm a Packers fan and we get Walter Nolan with that 1st-round pick, I'd be very happy. I love this pick. Walter Nolan is going to the Packers in the 1st round. Next up, in the 2nd round, pick 55. Jahad Campbell is still on the board at pick 41. A linebacker is very interesting for the Packers at pick 55, right? The linebacker room, not great. Edgerrin Cooper is talented, but Jahad Campbell can also do a lot of things by putting his hand in the ground. He's kind of been used all over the place in that Alabama defense. Off ball, off the edge. He's a very talented guy. Or do we go offensive line here? Donovan Jackson is still on the board. Cam Williams is on the board. Ozzie Trapillo is still on the board. Wyatt Millum from West Virginia is a very interesting player as well. Pass block grade 92.6, 89.7 grade, all 3 years at left tackle. He could slide right into there, probably be a day 1 starter. So do you go Jahad Campbell? That's a very interesting pick. Jaden Higgins, Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. I mean, I just like other guys more at this point in the draft. Jordan Birch, the edge defender from Oregon, is definitely a possibility. 10 sacks, very impressive against the pass. Solid, solid guy. Chris Paul, the linebacker, is still available. But for me, they need offensive line help desperately. And Wyatt Millum, 6'6", 317 pounds. He could probably bulk up to that 325 range and be a prototype tackle for the Green Bay Packers in the second round. I love this pick. We need to address the trenches. We got our interior defensive lineman. Now we're going to address the offensive line. Wyatt Millum, in my opinion, is the best tackle available, best offensive lineman available. So he's going to the Packers in the second round, guys. Now, pick 87 for the Green Bay Packers, right? We took Walter Nolan in round 1, Wyatt Millum in round 2. Jalen Royals is really interesting in the third round, pick 74 from Utah State. Very talented guy, 6 foot, 205. Really, really solid wide receiver. Tez Johnson from Oregon is available too. He was another wide receiver that was very talented, but he's more of a slot guy. And I think only 165 pounds. I think the Packers are going to want a true X wide receiver, someone with better size than a guy like Tez Johnson. When I look who else is on the board here, I don't really see a lot of value with these picks in the third round. Donovan Jackson, 6'4", 320, more of a guard type. I mean, he's really interesting here. For me, it's between Jackson, Chris Paul Jr., the linebacker. Very, very talented guy out of Ole Miss, 6'1", 235. He could fit in very well. Donovan Jackson, ooh, baby, man. This is a very interesting pick for them. A lot of talent on the board here. He lined up in the box pretty much the majority of his time. Didn't really line up on the D-line too much. He's a true off-ball linebacker. Chris Paul is. So Donovan Jackson might be the play here, guys. Getting really good value. 58th overall ranked guy for that number 87 pick. I mean, it's hard to pass that up when there's some desperate need at the offensive line, especially when you only have 2 tackles on your entire roster. That's why I'm taking Donovan Jackson from Ohio State, guys. You got to do it. I know it's a lot of offensive line help, but I'm telling you, that's the dude. Donovan Jackson, Wyatt Millum are going to instantly upgrade this offensive line that needs a lot of help. They need more depth for sure, guys. All right, now we're picking in the 4th round, 123 overall. According to PFF, wide receiver, center, edge, and cornerback are the needs here. Noel Williams from Cal is on the board here, 78 overall grade. Great against the run, pretty solid in man coverage, zone coverage, pretty effective as well. 10 forced incompletions, which is really, really impressive as well. 7 interceptions, man. He's got some serious ball skills in the 4th round. When I'm looking at the rest of the guys available, I know we really want to add some edge help here for them, but Noel Williams, the cornerback, is going to the Packers at pick 123. Now, up at pick 159 for the Green Bay Packers here in the 5th round. Okay, do we bring in a quarterback to back up Jordan Love? I don't know if I necessarily love that. I think cornerback, I think wide receiver might be a place to target here. Nick Nash from Ohio State is a guy I really, really liked so far in breaking down these wide receiver. Antoine Wells from Ole Miss is on the board. Caden Prather, not a ton of talent, but then you look at Nick Nash and you're like, oh boy, he really, really had a great year for San Jose State. I know he's not playing big-time programs necessarily, but I think at 6'3", 195, he could be that true X wide receiver, man. He's got a lot of talent. 1,300, almost 1,400 yards, over 13 yards per catch, 16 touchdowns. I think a steal in the 5th round. Nick Nash goes to the Green Bay Packers with the 5th round pick. Now, we're picking in the 6th round, pick 198 overall for the Packers. Now, when you're drafting in the 6th and 7th round, you're looking at the best player available. Jake Majors, the center, makes a lot of sense considering they only have one center on their roster, and he's not very good. He's not very good. Jake Majors, I do like. Tim Smith, interior defensive lineman from Alabama, he's on the board. Braden Swinson from LSU, he looks very, very talented as well, guys. 43 hurries, 9 sacks, the edge defender. 6'4", 250. Definitely a little slight of frame for me. I'm going to hope that Jake Majors is still going to be there. I'm going to take Brady Swinson, the edge defender, right now, and hope Swinson is still on the board at center, which he is not. Unfortunately, guys, that stinks. He's not on the board anymore. So we're going to take a look at offensive tackles and interior offensive linemen. Joshua Gray is on the board. Pretty solid-ish guard. Really good 2022. Kind of regressed in 2023. Bounced back a little bit. 6'4", 310. Tackle, Trey Weddick. A lot of these guys are going to be moving inside. Like Trey Weddick, probably 6'7", 319. He's got good tackle size as well. We got a couple centers on the board. Drew Candle from Boston College. Pass block grade, 81.5. Overall grade, 78.8. 6'4", 299. Not the greatest size. Cooper May from Tennessee is on the board, 6'4", 310. When I'm looking at these guys, Luke Newman, the guard from Michigan State, I really want to bring in a center. Carson Vincent from Alabama. A&M is on the board here, 6'6", 305. There are some decent guys here at the guard. Dylan Fairchild is hard to pass up. He played left guard, a little bit of right guard in his career. That pass block grade, 87, and playing for the Georgia Bulldogs, man. I'm thinking I'm bringing in the guard. I'm bringing in the guard as opposed to the center. And then we got one more pick. Pick number 250. Let's see what we drafted so far. We got an interior defensive lineman, 2 tackles, a corner, wide receiver, edge defender, and a guard. Let's see if any of these. Cooper Mays is still on the board. Decent, not great. Drew Kendall is on the board. Pretty solid center. 81 pass block grade, 78 grade from Boston College. I'm taking him with my 7th round pick, guys. I'm drafting the trenches for the Packers this year, guys. A- overall grade. I love that. Love that. Love that. Walter Nolan, A- grade. Wyatt Millum, I'm telling you guys, he's a great pick at the number in the 2nd round. I don't care what PFF says. One of the highest graded offensive linemen in all of 2024. Donovan Jackson, A+ grade in the 3rd round. Noel Williams, A. Nick Nash, A. Brady Swinson, A. Dylan Fairchild, B-. Drew Kendall, B+. Guys, I think we crushed this draft. If the Packers came away with this haul, guys, I don't know how it could be much better. PFF gave my grade an A-. Let me know in the comments below. What is your grade for my Packers 2025 mock draft, guys? Pretty solid, guys. We get the trenches figured out for the Packers. A run in the NFC is right around the corner for this Green Bay Packers team. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for all the support this past season. We added over 10,000 subscribers. Help me get to 15K. Thank you so much. Peace.